Why do you think that oftentimes more black children have to grow up in one household with families?
I think it goes back to the welfare reform, and it goes back to the model cities program. It goes back to a welfare state created that disincentivizes people from staying married. There's a financial incentive right now to not be married.
So if that incentive is there, why is it only happening to black families?
Because there's a high percentage of black families who use welfare than white families.
And why is that? Because...
Well, at a certain point, though, you do have to end that cycle. There is a responsibility. Your parents chose to stay together, right?
Sure.
That cycle can only be broken through personal responsibility.
Yeah, but before we stray too far away from that,
sure.
Why are more black families on welfare?
But why were more black families not getting divorced? Why do they have stronger family households before the modern welfare state? In other words, blacks had a lower divorce rate. They had a lower fatherless household rate before the modern.
Sure.
They had stronger family units before the modern welfare state. Now, that was also sold to them from the Democratic Party. It was sold to them as something that was owed to them through reparations, right? This was a big part of it. They targeted black areas and encouraged them to get on welfare. And then through that point, continuing through that end, they then created financial incentives to not be married. And at a certain point, I do believe when all rights are equal, since the 1960s, as far as the right to vote, when we're talking about the right to own property, redlining has been stopped, and there are systemic advantages afforded to minorities, not afforded to white people. There does have to be, considering that we know how beneficial and how much of a privilege, there's no greater privilege than being raised in a household with a mother and a father, that some personal responsibility does need to come into account. And that someone today who chooses to walk out on their wife has nothing to do with the Emancipation Proclamation.